it was seen as cheating. And I would always get the line of, well, you didn't do this, or this isn't your work. And that was really defeating because even if I was the brains behind what was done, it was still seen as cheating. It was still seen as, well, you didn't do it. Hey guys, welcome back to the SubPar Grappling Podcast. I'm your host, Alan, the SubPar Grappler. And I was on vacation last week. I got the chance to fly down to El Salvador to check out some of the beautiful beaches, see some families, and do some more sightseeing. If I haven't said this before, I'm actually half Salvadorian, and I lived there most of my teenage years. I lived there from when I was about 11 to when I was about 17 years old. And for better or for worse, my experiences down there have shaped me into who I am today. And so that's what I want to focus on, some of my experiences down in El Salvador. So I want to give you guys some backstory to give some context about where I'm going. I was born in Connecticut, and I was diagnosed with CP in Connecticut. And throughout all of my childhood into my preteens, I was going to physical therapy, occupational therapy. I had a lot of accommodations in school. I had to wear braces on my legs. I had tutors to help me take notes during class and help me do stuff with my hands. And I even had to wear this helmet whenever I went into the hallways. And I really hated that thing, but I wore it up to 5th grade. And so all of those accommodations disappeared overnight when I went to El Salvador. And so that's what I'm talking about today, the culture shock of moving down there and the accommodations or lack thereof and how they affected me. And so if you don't know, El Salvador is the smallest country in Central America. And it's modernized a lot lately, and it's been in the news a lot lately, unfortunately. But back when I was there, it was not modern at all. I mean, it's probably second world country type vibes. And so it was a very poor country. And we moved to the poor area in the poor country. And when I say poor, I mean no paved roads, kids walking around with no shoes on, and people got around on foot, by bus, horseback, or these things called carretas, which is like a wagon pulled by two bulls. And that's how people got around. And if someone had a car, that person had money. And not a nice car. It was just like a 4 wheels and it goes forward. Then you had money. I even remember at one point putting on my Game Boy Advance. Yeah, Game Boy Advance. Remember those? That's how old I am. But I remember none of the kids knew what that was. It was a whole new piece of tech for them. And that's when they really started to say how different it was going to be for me in El Salvador. But it really kicked in when I started going to school there. You see, here in the U.S., there's a lot of accommodations for people with disabilities, and that's a good thing. We have tutors, we have special ed classes, and depending on your area, there may be, special equipment for your specific needs. But at least at the time in El Salvador, they had none of that. I mean none of it. It was a very poor school. There was no help for me at all. And at the time, I was a lot less independent. And so I really needed the help. And so very quickly, 11-year-old me figured out that I was pretty much on my own. And again, I did need a lot of help. So a small example is here in the U.S., at least in grade school, all the kids get handouts with all the assignments, with all the math problems, with all the notes that they need. In El Salvador, the teacher would come in and write the whole lesson on a whiteboard, and we had to copy it into our notebooks. And so I was a very slow writer with terrible handwriting, and it would take me a long time to copy down the lesson. And the class would end, and the teacher had to erase what was on the whiteboard to leave it ready for the next teacher coming in. So most of the lessons in my notebook were about halfway done or 3/4 of the way done. And I still wonder how I passed some of those classes. But that's just a small example. And it was a really hard 2 years to get used to that kind of style of education. But what I really want to highlight is that eventually I made friends and I did get help with certain things. But if I ever did get help with anything, it was seen as cheating. And I would always get the line of, well, you didn't do this, or this isn't your work. And that was really defeating because even if I was the brains behind what was done, it was still seen as cheating. It was still seen as, well, you didn't do it. And, in my mind, I just, looking back, you would never say that to an architect. You would never say that to a designer. You would never say that to anyone. Well, you didn't do it because you didn't specifically put the parts together, even though you designed it. And so, because of that, I stopped asking for help. And so this is the better or worse thing. Because of that, I became very independent. I learned how to do a lot of stuff on my own. But the truth is, I still needed help with certain things. I still didn't have all the accommodations that were offered here in the US. So I still needed help. But I didn't want to be the one who always needed help. I didn't want to be the one who didn't or couldn't do anything on his own. And so I stopped asking for help unless I absolutely needed it. Even if it was something mundane until he offered to help me. Even if it wasn't school, I would still say no because I didn't want to be seen as someone who needed help. And that transferred over to when I came back here, when I started going to high school. When I moved back to Texas, I moved back to Texas after Salvador and started going to high school. They offered me all the accommodations and I turned them down because in my head, that was cheating. And it wasn't, but in my head, I wanted to do things on my own because that was like success for me. Not using any of the accommodations was like a big flex for me. And looking back, I could have used a lot of those accommodations and I just made things harder for myself. So I don't know how you view accommodations. I was taught that it was cheating and I've had to unlearn that. And so I want to say to you if you're watching this, if you need accommodations to help you succeed, please take them. Because what I believe that they do now is that they level the playing field. And not 100%, but they do help you, give you a better chance at succeeding at whatever it is you want to succeed at. And so I think it's up to you if you want to take them or turn them down. But please at least consider them and don't be like me and just see it as a flex to not use them because it made things a lot more difficult for me than they should have. So that's the episode today. That's one of my experiences in El Salvador. And I want to share more because there is a lot more. I was there for almost 6 years. So I went through a lot when I was there. But thank you for watching this episode. And I hope this encouraged you to see your accommodations as helpful and not as a crutch per se. And I got a lot of cool stuff coming up. I got some interviews lined up. I got a lot of stuff going on the podcast. So please stay tuned and subscribe to the channel. Leave me a comment. Leave me a like. Share this with somebody who might need it. And let me know in the comments what you guys think about accommodations. Do you use them? Do you not use them? What is something that you found helpful or not helpful? Let me know, guys. And yeah, so until next time, I will see you guys on the mat.